with me, I have a guest. Introduce yourself.
My name is Peter, and I am a former English teacher after 10 years of suffering for my trade, and I'm here to educate you guys on my final lesson about what it's like.
The final lesson.
This is it.
This
is it. My lasting memories are being put to this recording of teaching English in Japan and all the shame that comes with it.
But you're not just a former English teacher in Japan. You're also a full-time Twitch streamer, aren't you, Mr. Premier too?
Yes.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who can claim to be full-time Twitch streamers. And I think that when I first started teaching, teaching is considered kind of the great shame of jobs in Japan.
Wait,
hold on.
Why?
But then I became a Twitch streamer and I realized, no, there's lower. So I am okay, but no, it is.
Got him.
Yeah, it's true. But no, teaching is an interesting profession, right? Of course, in most societies, it's highly respected. And then you take one look at someone like me and you realize, maybe not. But the thing is I think a lot of people want to come to Japan and they need an opportunity to do so.
Yeah.
And imagine, for example, you have no marketable skills or a theater degree or...
Really selling yourself here, Peter.
I'm not naming names. But if you did have those things, but you have a bachelor's, well, then you've got an opportunity to come to be a teacher in Japan.
That's just Asia, right?
It's,
it's just like it was the same thing in Thailand where you could be the most all you need is a bachelor's and then you can get like any job you wanted.
And it could be any bachelor.
Yeah.
Well, trust me, I know. I like in America, I had a theater degree, which is about. It's really good for waiting tables. You're a great waiter. You get tips well, and that's. But when you come to Japan and you do teach, I think the expat community or the other people who are in Japan they look down upon it pretty heavily.
Okay, so that's one thing I've wanted to ask straight up, all right? Because I think there's a lot of people who watch Trash Taste and just Japan content in general, right? Who obviously they're like, I want to be able to go to Japan. And when they go do their research, they realize, okay, the easiest way is to become an English teacher in Japan, right? That's the easiest gateway method, right? But I think the general consensus of English teachers in Japan being as you put it, a shameful position or I guess history. I don't know. I personally haven't heard much about that. So obviously you have the experience of being in that position. None of us do.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is the case?
Yeah, because I think we've met a few English teachers who have lived in Japan, but I think you have one of the most interesting stories out of a lot of people we've met, and also. You have unlike a lot of people we've brought on who have also lived in Japan, you've had the true expat experience. I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you've lived in Japan for how long now?
Almost 12 years now.
12.
There's something time loses meaning after a certain point. I came here right after the Tohoku earthquake of 2011.
Okay.
So about 2 weeks. That was a while ago. But yeah,
a while ago.
It was a long time. I think, though, to answer your question about why it's kind of disrespected, and I do want to be clear, as much as I'm joking around, teaching can be a good profession here.
Yeah.
But the reason it's looked down upon is we have to deconstruct, what is a teacher and what is an English teacher as a foreigner.
Okay.
You're not going to be, reading Socrates and explaining all of these cool Shakespearean stories. You are hired as an entertainer and or clown. And you really have to, this is an important, you are the court jester, and you have to imagine you're not in a college setting, right? You're teaching potentially kids who are anywhere from the ages of 0 all the way through high school. And if you're in elementary school or junior high, or especially, the kind of Aika, special class, additional education outside
special
of school.
Clown.
you better get the big shoes and the red buttons and be ready to sing some songs and create some ridiculous lessons to make English fun and interactive.
Okay, so I've heard about being an English teacher in Japan and a lot of other Asian countries, but what does that actually entail? What responsibilities are on you, and how much do you have to plan?
I imagine it's different based on what school and what.
Yeah.
Well, what's the typical step-by-step process as a full-time?
Is there a typical?
Yeah.
Well, let's go with the 3 different scenarios. I think this will help kind of simplify it.
Sure.
Let's start with the Eikaiwa,
Okay.
which a lot of people who did not get into a school, teach at an Aika.
Yeah.
Those are lessons that students come to anywhere from like 2 years old up to maybe elementary school. Those are usually planned out for you, or you have some sort of reference from a book that some other expat wrote in 1977. And you're like, all right, so we're going to teach colors today. And it can be pretty brutal. Like a normal lesson would be something like this. And this is why I highly recommend you think very hard about being a teacher. You walk into the classroom, and there's about 13 kids screaming, crying, sneezing, puking, whatever. And they're all shitting. They're all just playing with toys and stuff. And you give them like 5 or 6 minutes of toy time. And this is the hardest part. A lot of the times, this is one of the first times that parents are leaving their kids alone.
Right.
So, and we encourage them. You tape up all the walls and you say like, just don't look through the window and the doors. Don't be visible, because when the door shuts and I start, we need them to just be distracted and not think, where's my mom and where's my dad?
Right.
Yeah.
That never works. So, like 0%. So you'll close the door and you'll be like, all right. And there's like songs, you go like, oh God, you're gonna give me PTSD. You say like,
I want to hear the song.
You're lucky I can't stand up and do the full performance, but you go, clean up, everybody, everywhere, clean up, everybody, do your share. So you have to.
So you're about to say, everyone do your shit.
Yeah, everyone clean up your shit. And so, and then they realize my parents aren't here and the waterworks begin. It doesn't matter if it's the first lesson or the 10th. This is something that you have to grapple with.
Sure.
And you bought your, strawberry frappuccino with the $3 that you've made this year teaching, and you're just like, I wish this was alcohol. This is awful. And then it's just, you got to do this every single day, 5 or 6 days a week, in perpetuity, until you can escape that job.
So this is obviously...
This is the Aika version.
Yeah, so this is obviously like targeted towards, like what, average age?
I would say anywhere from 2 all the way until early middle school. And the middle schoolers are a bit, the classes are smaller.
Right.
It's a bit more personal. You can just say like, what are you studying in school today? Let me help you. So those are kind of fun. But anywhere in the baby to...
The baby range.
Who's the babysitter? Who's
babysitter.
Oh man, it is not, but it can be rewarding, of course. I'm saying that because I had 2 or 3 good memories, but it is fun to see kids and you help them learn like what does the color blue look like in English.
All right, so
what are the other? You said that was the first.
That's the first one. Then the next is elementary school. And so now you have to start wearing the suit and you have to start going to school and sitting with the morning meetings with the teachers. And there's a lot of differences from like America. Like as a teacher, you'd walk up to the principal and you'd say like, "Ohayou gozaimasu," and he'd be like, "Ew," and then you'd go sit down. And then now you're kind of in this world where you have an abundance of free time. And you have no idea how to spend it because you don't have any money, and you can study Japanese or you can, look busy on the computer. But then the classes you have anywhere from 3 to 5 a day, and it's like talking about the weather, or you go in there and tell them about, numbers or emotions, and then you repeat this for 65 years. And then, but then the final one is you get into junior high school and high school.
Yeah.
Those are considered, I would say, the best positions, especially high school. Finally, the kids have an opportunity to start explaining, their experiences and their...
Like they can actually talk to you.
Yeah.
Well, let's not jump the gun. Some can, yes. Some can talk to you.
Yeah.
But at least you can kind of extract some information that's not, what train do you like? It's Dr. Yellow, the Shinkansen. Wow, that's amazing. Or your favorite color's blue. Okay. And how old are you? I'm 7. Thank you. Those are the basics. But then in high school, you really get an opportunity, like you said, to have conversations.
If they choose to.
Yeah.
If they choose to, or if they can, or mostly if they choose to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back even all the way before this, so what made you want to move to Japan in the first place? Because I assume you discovered teaching English because that was one of the most prevalent ways to get to move to Japan, right?
It was. Well, for me, I have a very unique history, I guess. It's very unusual. When I was 19, I was in college.
Right.
I had to think about that.
Yeah.
And I was taking a Japanese lesson because I just had seen some Japanese movies I thought were cool, and I was like, that sounds cool. Battle Royale was still really popular, and Akira Kurosawa films with my buddies, and of course, video games. So I took this Japanese class, and I was completely failing it. I'm so bad. It's a theme throughout my language studies. But they said, the teacher said, hey, we need somebody to be a host family because this person lost their original host family because of a disagreement or something.
Right.
And I was thinking, damn, that would be so sick. I could like play Street Fighter with this dude and we could hang out all the time and I could learn Japanese. And I was like, I'll do that. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a girl who lived it with my mother and I for like 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And
Whoa,
and I had
2 or
to-
3 years?
well, we got
That's long for a host family, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Like usually they don't last. It's like maybe what
I thought
3
it
to
was
6
I thought it was
months.
like a week or something.
A week.
I, don't-
No, I think
No.
on average it's like maybe 3 months.
I guess we're in that distance. I did it with like Irish kids. And that was, we did that for like a week. And that was too much.
Well, I'm sure.
I
if you
did-
asked
what are
her,
you?
yeah.
I did not get along well with my Irish counterpart.
Yeah. No, because Sydney did the same thing as well. She had a host. She was a host family as well.
Oh, right.
And she had the so she had the choice between her parents wanted to become a host family for
Yeah.
someone abroad, and Sydney was going through her weeb phase. She was like, "Pick someone Japanese." And that's
It's like I'm begging for
I'm begging
Like a catalog.
Like this one looks nice.
this one,
Yeah.
the Japanese one, please.
Well, I'm thankful that she didn't have a catalog, or I would have never come to Japan because I don't think she would have chose me. But my mom was, my sister had just moved out, and so it was kind of cool because I was living in the basement like any normal American boy.
As you do,
and
yeah.
of course, and then she took like my sister's old room upstairs, and so. I think it was a bit longer. Even when I went to college in a different city, she stayed at the house and
wow.
stuff.
Wow.
But she said, your family's been so kind to me. Why don't I introduce you to my family and you visit Japan? So I was like 20, 21, and she lived in Yokohama, which
Okay.
is a really nice place to visit. And I loved it, man. It was such a transformative part of my life.
Yeah.
Where I was like studying acting and I could read the tea leaves, so to speak. I was like,
What year was this? Sorry?
this was 1964. No, I'm kidding. No, this was 2004 or
wow.
2005.
Damn,
or
that's-
I was
something around that.
10.
This was so different from now.
Well, yes, it was.
Well, that was when Akihabara was still the electric
See,
city.
that's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because when I went to Akihabara, it was insane. When I was growing up, Akihabara was a place of legend.
Yeah.
Every video game magazines that EGM or Game Players or PSM, Tips and Tricks, they would have a correspondent from Akihabara
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about the sites and the games and the
Yeah,
arcades.
Must be so cool.
It was there was like 3 maid cafes as opposed to now where there's 300 maid
Yeah.
cafes. You went there and it was the hobby town. So
Right.
That's sick.
anyway, I had a great experience and I said, if acting doesn't work out, I will come to Japan someday again. So I
Right.
visited 2 more times and then at 26 I'd finally got my college degree, a little later than some would say. But I made the move, and that's where I started, in Niigata, which on the west coast of Japan. But that's why I was interested in coming for sure.
Okay, so
Right.
did you go through the JET program like everyone else?
I applied, and
Yeah.
and that sounds lame. I made it to the interview phase, but I
Right.
graduated in winter as opposed to like spring or summer, like most students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their interviews are in like late fall. So they said you've made it to the interview phase, but it would take about 9 more months to have.
Oh shit.
So I was like, okay, I'll put that in my back pocket, but I'll check out like newsletters or online sources, and if I can find a opportunity, we'll see how it works. And
Right.
mine was marketed as beautiful beach town in the western coast of Japan. And I was like,
Niigata.
let's fucking go.
Really?
And,
Where in? What's your source?
yeah,
This wasn't with Jet. This was with. Like,
it was the Hart Corporation, and
What the fuck's that?
we don't know yet. I think it may have not even been a real company, but
Just
they
the dude in his basement.
when
actually.
you arrived, it was crazy, right?
Well, man, it was such a mess. So I got hired the day before the earthquake.
Oh shit.
Oh
so-
my god.
Then the plane and the moving was pretty rapid from there. And so I was trying to contact this source, but not be, because they were in, it was in Ibaraki, was where
Okay,
their head
yeah, yeah.
office was, which was kind of close enough to
Yeah.
the earthquake.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was messaging him, I was like, do I have a job? But don't answer me unless you can, or
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's not about
it's not, like, I just was
Do I have
trying
a
to
job?
figure out what am I doing. And he was like, yes, come to Japan. And I was like, I don't have a visa or anything. He's like, we'll sort it later. And I was like,
That's red flags. That's a red flag.
red flag, no way, let's go.
You answered, you were like, tools.
So when I got there, I was on a tourist visa, and I showed up, and I took a bus by myself to Ibaraki, and it was still struggling from the earthquake. And we went into basically a basement, and there was still manila folders and files all over the floor. And the guy was just, you know, the definition of an expat who has been in the teaching game too long. He was just like, okay, everyone, you're going to, and I was like, you got that? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, sure. And we had a 2-day training. It was bad. It was really, and so we had 2 days of training. Most of it was centered around, this is a sad thing. It was, don't be inappropriate to the children, which is, and I was like, yeah, I kind of figured that part out of my head.
You never got to tell me, bro.
We needed a course for that?
What was the...
Well, it was like 7 of the 8 hours was examples of what not to do.
Like what?
For example,
Okay.
don't show pornography. I was like, okay.
Wow, thank you for
I
telling
was
me.
like, I
You're
had
oh,
that one
shit,
on my bingo
resources
sheet.
gone.
Well, the Italian Senate could never. Fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, I'll delete the fucking Final
Sorry,
Fantasy VII
Italians.
porn.
I guess you're out of there now.
I was like, well, 3 terabytes gone. There it went. The next one may surprise you. You're not supposed to date students.
Oh my!
Wow.
So-
Didn't know that one.
And I was sitting there thinking, what have I done?
Just another
I was
guy just got up and left.
Well, I was
He's like,
like,
"I'm out."
well, yeah. But
Did they show you like a safety video for this? Be like,
there was actually limited electricity even because they were doing like energy. And but I was thinking like, and I did ask, I was like, why are you telling us the most obvious information ever? And he was like, well, the previous people who were teaching, they all lost their contract because of a guy or girl, I don't know who it was, but like did something inappropriate.
Oh my
so
God.
the entire, and it wasn't that company, it was a different, and then they got hired. So my contract was only for 3 months. So we were the replacements, and I guess they were very eager not to have something happen.
Any problems? Yeah.
But I was like, okay, well, what about the actual like teaching part? I don't have any experience. Do I need any of that? And he's like, you'll be fine. And I was like, well,
No way.
how many schools do I have? Like, just the, like, is it a high school? He's like, you have 7. And I was like,
What?
that's what I said. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, you have 5 elementary schools and 2 junior high schools. And I was like, but there's only like 5 days in a working week. And he was like, oh, that's right. You're going to go like, you're going to switch schools at lunchtime and you'll have to do these things.
Whoa.
This was a very exciting phase. And so then after those 2 days
What the fuck?
where you learn,
Very exciting. This is terrifying.
well, yeah, it was, but you know, you were in it and you just like, I didn't
But
have
I'm in Japan.
I was like, I don't have a phone. I don't have a carrier. I didn't have a phone for my first 4 months.
Was it weird being like totally disconnected from your home? Like,
Yeah, it was, and it was tough because you're coming from something like I had my entire life's possessions in like 2 or 3 suitcases, and imagine you weebs with your toys and your pillows and your
Whatever the fuck you weaves carry.
whatever you guys have, your I don't know, clothing, and then you have to consolidate all of that down into 2 suitcases, right?
I did that when
Yeah.
I moved here.
Oh, well then that's not as cool as it made it sound then. So,
It was mainly
You
PCs.
weaved
yeah,
your toys.
mainly PCs.
Yeah.
I didn't have a computer. I didn't have anything.
Right.
The iPhone 3S had just come out to put this
Yeah.
in perspective.
There are probably some kids watching this that are like, the what?
The what? Yeah, I know, it's so bad, and I'm so old. But
No.
it's cool though. But they gave me a car, and they put a washing machine in the back, and they said just drive like 8 hours that way. And I was like, what do you mean?
Wait. They gave you a car?
Yeah, I had to have a car because my classes were, Joetsu, where I was staying, is not a walkable
I mean, once you're
city.
outside of Tokyo, you need
Yeah,
a
you
car.
need
Yeah.
a
I know, but like,
they just told
where
you to-
did this car come from? Don't you need
Well,
a lot of documents?
I'm sure you do need them, but we're just
It was
hoping,
like, so I just found a car on the
Yeah.
side of the road. I keyed it.
Hotwired it. He's like, go,
Yeah.
go, go.
It's like, go, get it now.
You found this company through Google, right?
It was actually a
Not
thing.
like Craigslist or some shit like that.
That's the name. No, I'm kidding. It was actually
Alibaba.
similar. It was called Ohio Sensei, and it was a monthly newsletter that they would send out that had listings of opportunities.
Okay.
And 95% of them were, if you're in Japan, here is
I see.
what. you can
Oh,
do.
right.
But there was like one that was like, we'll hire anyone. And I was like, that's me. I can do that. So I don't have any experience driving in Japan. I don't even totally familiar with all of the rules. And
Not to
things.
mention, it's the wrong
It's on
side, left side, right?
The wrong side.
Yeah.
Did you have a driver's license?
I did. I was a pizza delivery man in the United States, so I'm no
Okay.
stranger.
But
to,
did you have an international license?
Wait a minute. No, I'm kidding. I did. I had
Okay.
But
Just making
those,
sure,
for
yeah.
Americans, those only last a year, and then you can't.
Yeah.
That's
So-
everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, after that, do you guys have to take the test?
If you get a,
Yeah, you gotta-
We don't have to take a test for the UK, but in Japan, they
The
only-
US, you have to.
Yeah,
do
we
the
got
other
to do the
side,
whole
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, in Japan, if you move here because you're a resident, you're only, for the first year you're allowed to use an international driving license, and then after that you're not allowed to use it
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you're a
So
resident.
you either have to get a Japanese driver's license, or you have to convert your current license wherever
To a
the country is
Japanese
to a
one.
Japanese. one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had that piece of
Yeah.
paper, and
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
I drove west or wherever it was, and then I finally, after about 11 or 12 hours,
I
of
hit the
driving,
coastline.
I hit the coastline, and then I had to go south because I overshot it. But like, I got there, and it was kind of crazy because there was 6 other teachers with me, and we were meeting in like literally a basement, and it even kind of reminds me of like a cinematic thing with like the swinging
Flickering
lamp,
light,
and
yeah.
it was like very low light, and like you'd see people's faces for like 2 seconds.
It's like a mafia film.
It really was, and people are smoking in there, and I was late, and they were like, so our final guest, and I'm like, oh,
That's literally like a movie.
It really was,
New
and so
guy, huh?
we were looking at this giant map of Niigata, and everybody had a color code that signified where we were, and I was like, it's like it's like Reservoir Dogs. I'm like Mr. Pink or something. I was like, I don't see my things like anywhere, and they're like, no, you have to do that because you've already driven here, and I was like, okay, and then we like unfurled the map like 3 squares, and I was over in the mountains, and it was like the most kind of isolated part of
Right.
of
Yeah,
this.
Niigata's can get
Yeah.
mountainous.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The elementary school had 31 students total. So it had 1 first grader. It had like 5 or 6
That's a
second graders.
non-beauty shit.
Yeah, and I was like, "Hi, I'm your English teacher," and it was to my great surprise, though. I started at the junior high school, and I get there, and they had a grand welcoming for me. And I've mentioned this story before on my streams or things, but I walk out into this theater, this auditorium or gym or whatever, and there's like the brass band playing, all
Right.
8 of them, and then it's like there's like a kid hitting the cymbals, and then there's like the teachers and everyone's clapping,
Yeah.
and there was this one kid by like the wings of the stage.
Yeah.
And he was like looking for someone, and they were like, "Hit it!" And he like yanked it down. Nothing happened. Then he like did it again, and it unfurled this ginormous poster that said, "Welcome, Petter." And I was like, given my recent training, there will be no petting. I was like, Petter, and then I was like, oh man, that's not my name, but I'll go with it. So,
Oh my God.
Just roll with it.
I was like,
I guess I'm Petter now.
Petter's here, let's go. And so I was like, all right, this is going to be interesting. And some of the things, if you're thinking about being a teacher, you need to realize is you have like a school lunch, which is made by like a nutritionist, and you might get like fish heads or really healthy things.
A balanced diet.
Yeah.
A balanced diet,
Yeah.
and you get like a carton of milk. You don't get a separate lunch from like the teachers, so it's very, and you got to eat with the kids a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You go to different classes, and you're like sitting in, and you're like, okay, I'm too fat for this shit, and you're like, hey kids, how you doing? And you're like, and you don't know how to use chopsticks maybe, or there's a lot of things you don't know.
You're really thrown in the deep end.
Culture
Yeah.
differences. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for me, I had to do a lot of farming and agriculture work.
Because you're in the mountains.
Because I'm in the mountains.
Right.
So I had to teach them like the names of animals they may slaughter or raise, I guess, or animal husbandry, or like equipment, or and then they were like, "Well, it's time for you to go out to the fields and plant some rice, or we're gonna do hard backbreaking labor." And they're like, what?
It's actually shocking the amount of like schools that still do that to this day.
Yes. I mean, I
Yeah.
lived
in the mountains. They still do that.
What kind of stuff we're talking?
So for the Undokai, which is the sports festival, we planted our own rice so that by the harvest time we could enjoy the fruits of our labor.
I guess that's
Right.
kind of cool.
It's kinda
but
cool.
also-
Oh, that's cool.
It's also because like a lot of these like kids that grow up in these kinds of environments, they end up working in
Yeah, makes
farms
sense.
Yeah.
anyway, or they go to like high schools that are like agriculture based, or like colleges that are agriculture based. So they're just like, well, let's implant this knowledge into them while they're young, because they're
for
probably going to end up in that occupation anyway.
And the English teacher who's there by accident. And
Learn our culture,
yes,
do
thank
our
you.
work.
Well, it was tough because I showed up in like a suit, and I remember, I'm like, "Hey, what's up?" And it's brutally hot. It's not a
Yeah.
beach town. This is not a resort. It's the most humid city on planet Earth. I swear.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're like, today we're gonna run around this giant, like 2 or 3 kilometer field that was like their harvesting field. But every morning, the students and teachers all do 3 laps to like
God.
promote, I don't know, health. And I was like, I'm wearing like, a a suit. And he was like, the principal, really nice guy. He was like, oh, daijoubu, daijoubu, and he was like, I think I have some old soccer shorts. And he got me some Umbros. And Umbros are like what I remember from like 8 years old, which are like these sequenced soccer shorts.
Yeah.
And I am not the same size of a thin Japanese man. And I put those things on, and it was like the tightest, like shorts. I barely got my thigh through, them. And now I'm like, and so I'm running with
look
a
like
necktie.
a pedo. You look like a
pedo. Hey, who's that new teacher? And so I'm like running in like dress shoes and Umbros and a suit or a shirt with a tie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I've made a terrible mistake. But these parts I actually enjoyed. These kids had a real charming quality to them. They were very innocent.